Today I'm going to talk about probably one of the most important things in doing well academically, and perhaps even doing well in life: your ability to remember material. Students often forget about 80% of the material they study before exams. Now, why does this happen? Because most people don't study systematically. They don't start reviewing until after they have forgotten much of the material. In order to study effectively, we need to structure information so that we can remember it. If we don't engage, we, we won't remember. We need to fully engage while reviewing material. If we don't create connections, we can't, we're not able to recall. In fact, structuring is so important. If we don't structure information ourselves, our brain will create structure on its own. We may remember things incorrectly. A good example of this is something called forgetful witness phenomenon. When someone witnesses a traumatic event, they're so overwhelmed, they probably can't structure what they're seeing. And because our brains always want to make sense of things, it starts filling in missing pieces, but not always correctly. Here are some big takeaways. The first big takeaway: if you want to really learn and remember something, you need to structure it. Structuring is honestly one of the most important steps in memorization. Any structure, even simple structure, is better than no structure at all. I will cover 5 simple tips for effective, efficient memorization. Tip 1, summarize and structure. Tip 2, visualize and create connections. Tip 3, review and using all our senses. Tip 4, repetition for long-term memory. Tip 5, healthy work habits. A bonus tip: teach ourselves to enjoy the learning process. First, we need to understand our brains. In the morning, our brain is well rested, our working memory is strong, our attention span is good, plus the sunlight boosts our serotonin levels. We're alert and naturally engaged. This makes the morning an ideal time for the kind of careful work needed to create structure, connecting ideas together for easy later review. Another super important time for memorization a lot of people overlook is the time right before we go to sleep. Have you ever been up late playing video games, totally exhausted, then dream about the game? We can actually make use of this and take it to our advantage. This is called sleep-dependent consolidation, where our brains tend to consolidate memories better during sleep. To take advantage of this, we want to review the material as the last thing before sleeping. We want to get ready for bed, take our shower, brush our teeth, whatever we usually do, then do our final review right before we fall asleep. Even though we're tired, this is honestly one of the best and most powerful times to form strong memories. It might even be twice as efficient to study than any other time. When you review structured material right before sleep, you control what your brain is locking in. And because you took the time earlier to structure it properly, it is easier for your brain to consolidate during sleep. The bottom line is, if you want to boost your memory without working twice as hard, make bedtime review a habit. In summary, we need to understand how our brain works and plan to work with it, not against it. In the morning, our brain is fresh and active. It's the best time to summarize and structure new material. It's the perfect time to get things right for later review. At night, when we're tired, we don't really have the brain power to work through anything complex. We're still creative, but not super sharp. That's why nighttime is the perfect time to review what we have already worked out and lock it into our memory while we sleep. The first tip: summarize and review in structure. Something super important about memorization: we need to start memorizing before we forget it. After class, after meetings, or even after witnessing a traumatic event, By reviewing class material, meeting points, or going over what happened in a traumatic event the same day as soon as possible, we are telling our brains, hey, this is important. And this is the first step in memorization. If we don't, our brains are going to think, nah, not important, and we're going to forget about it. The same thing applies to learning any skill. Another powerful tool is cheat sheets. It's important that we don't make this an overburdensome process. We need to do it in a way that naturally fits into our activities, our studies, and normal learning process. Whenever we're working on an assignment or task, or we have to look something up, boom, add it to the cheat sheet. If it's not fresh in our memory or fresh in the tip of our mind, write it down. We are building our own quick access database. Over time, we write our cheat sheets, we clean them up, we organize them. A good, quick review is naturally structured. Cheat sheets are great for pre-exam review and course review. But the act of creating cheat sheets is even more valuable for structured material for easy memorization. The bottom line, don't just create cheat sheets, keep updating them and refreshing them. In that way, when it comes crunch time, we are ready for review. Second tip, visualization and creating connections. Visualization is a little bit like creating cheat sheets. We can add visualization to our cheat sheets, in fact. Visualization is all about connecting ideas together in a way that makes them easier to remember. If we're studying historical events, create a timeline. If we're working in cause and effect, draw a connection map. If we're learning physics, draw a diagram, sketch out what the effects of equations are, sketch out equations. The point is, the connections we create through these visuals are how we actually recall material later. The truth is, if we can't recall it, we haven't memorized it. That's why connection maps are so important. When making connection maps, don't overthink it. Sure, spending lots of time on connection maps can be helpful, but ideally, these maps should flow naturally from our understanding of the material. I'm not going to cover understanding detail in this session. I'll cover it another time, but once you grasp how understanding works, creating connection maps will be easier. Connection maps really help with understanding material, and when you truly understand something, the connection maps will naturally form. So they're kind of like building each other. Connection maps help you understand material, and when you understand material, the connection maps are obvious. The third tip is using all our senses when we review material. We have created summaries, we may have created cheat sheets, we may have created connection maps, we are ready for review. Sometimes we want to review the raw material because we just want to memorize the whole thing, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. Summaries, cheat sheets, connection maps can also make the memory process of raw material easier. Any one of these, summaries, cheat sheets, connection maps, or raw material, are great for review. When we are reviewing, we want to engage all our senses. That means just don't sit there reading silently. Say the words out loud so you actually hear them. Redraw, rewrite for reinforcement. This also adds muscle memory and hand-eye coordination. And the more senses we involve, the more connections we form to lock the memory into our brain. So every time we review something, read out loud. When we have time, we draw it, rewrite it. The best time to do this is right before we go to sleep. Take advantage of our brain's sleep-dependent consolidation. Fourth tip, repetition is required for long-term memory. Another important thing for long-term memory is repetition. If we want to remember something long-term, we've got to repeat the review process. If we review something many times in one day, sure, it feels fresh, but it's not going to create strong long-term memory. So what does work? Review it once, then come back and reinforce it later, and then again later. It's very much like muscle memory. Let's say you're trying to learn a new swim stroke or a new activity. If we practice it once, it's not enough. If we practice it repeatedly over time, it becomes ingrained, it becomes muscle memory. Of course, the initial summary is very important. In fact, it is the first and most important step in memorization. After attending class, a meeting, or experiencing a traumatic event, take time to summarize what we've seen, observed. This tells our brain, hey, this is important, memorize it, record it for later. It's the first step of translating what's in our short-term memory into our long-term memory. This one review but it's not enough. Three additional reviews will help build a strong, solid, basic memory. If we want to have it long memory, we need to review it over and over again. We can summarize it one day, review it the next day, review it a week later. It doesn't matter exactly when, but we must review it over time. The fifth tip, healthy work habits. Something people often forget all the time is you have to take care of yourself if you want to memorize material and learn. Just like building muscles and training for sports, memorization takes a lot of energy. Our brains consume a lot of energy. So in order to have the mental clarity, we need to have sleep. We want a good 7 to 9 hours ideally. You may drink coffee, that's fine. But the most important thing is to be well rested if we want mental clarity. Even if you're in a high stress work like the military, emergency response, or you're racing to meet a massive deadline, do not pull all-nighters. Just don't. I've done all-nighters before, staying up all night, working in the farm, getting crops in, finishing projects. It's harmful. If you don't sleep, your body will start to shut down. After about 3 days without sleep, you'll stop digesting food correctly or properly. Your food will just go right through you. After about 5 days, you'll start to go insane, and it hurts. It physically hurts. I know this from experience. If you're in a situation when there's no time to sleep, get 2 hours sleep. It's enough to hit REM sleep. It's enough rest to reset your brain and your body just enough so you can function the next day. You'll digest food better and you'll stay mentally sane. I don't care if you got crops to plant or deadlines to hit. You gotta get 2 or more hours sleep unless it's a life or death situation. You just get more done. Another important thing is we need to work efficiently. In order to do this, we want to work in working sprints. And different activities allow for different levels of distraction. For example, physical labor, driving, doesn't require our full attention the same way the studying does. You might be able to listen to something while you're doing these activities, but you can't be checking your phone, obviously. If we want to memorize something, we need all our senses focused. We cannot multitask. If you're used to being distracted and scrolling on your phone or flipping through TV, start with half-hour sprints. Work focused for half an hour, no phone, no distractions. The second we grab our phone, that sprint's over. After each sprint, take a short break, stretch, drink some water, relax your eyes. After a few sprints, maybe 4 to 6, take a longer break. Go exercise, grab a snack, whatever we need. Remember, if our sprints are short, it's fine. Just group a few together before taking a bigger break. There's no exact formula, but if we're working for half an hour and taking half-hour breaks, we're just not going to get much done. Bonus tips: teach ourselves to enjoy the learning process. I mean, how can we do this long term? One of the challenges of doing things long term is being able to sustain it. Memorization is systematic and requires a lot of focus. It's hard to sustain. We need to schedule time, a few hours every week to defocus. And by defocusing, I don't mean switching to video games or chat channels. That's still focusing, but just a different kind. We especially need this time if we're approaching burnout. In fact, defocusing is one of the best ways to prevent burnout. If we don't allow ourselves time to defocus, we can't maintain intense focus, and eventually distraction becomes unavoidable. That's, in fact, what really drives burnout is when you apply increasing effort and you get reduced results. I mean, just not able to apply ourselves in the way we need to. This is why we need to do this so much. So, what do I mean by defocusing? Defocusing is almost like vegging. We're going to do something without worrying too much about the consequences. It's like going for a walk, relaxing, bird watching, casually socializing with friends, or simply resting in bed. It has to be something that doesn't require focused attention, something relaxing that lets us disengage. This disengagement is so important to refresh ourselves and prepare ourselves to refocus in the coming week. And that refocusing is what's required to prevent burnout. We also need to protect our focus. If you're constantly reaching for your phone, put it away. If you're surrounded by distractions, people talking, find a quiet booth or a study room. If you can't, maybe instrumental music might provide some relief. If you can't get um, a time to defocus, then we can't do deep focused work if our environment keeps pulling our attention away. It's just so important. Also, we need to find ways to reward ourselves. When exams or big projects coming up, the natural reaction is to avoid these because they're very stressful. I rewarded myself a lot at university because exams are very hard. I made sure I slept well, enjoyed some sweets. I actually made exams something I kind of look forward to because I treated myself better during exams than any other time. And as a result, I ended up doing quite well. A final point, don't cram, train your brain. If you're cramming and pushing yourself through stuff that feels miserable, it's going to be really hard to memorize and learn anything. But if you actually train your brain and find ways to enjoy the process, memorization becomes much easier. Make it something you like doing, and your brain will work with you, not against you. I hope you find this helpful and enjoy an excellent memory.